From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
An end of an era.
That's the last of the Rio Grande Valley sugar that there will be.
See what led to the end of Texas sugarcane industry. It's a government program that feeds millions of people, but changes could have a big impact on the dairy industry as spring planting gets underway.
I can't rule out the fact that we could cool back down one more time.
But will the weather cooperate? The latest right now on AgDay.
AgDay, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when experience meets expertise. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Several days of rain and snow has delayed planting in some key growing states. While USDA reports corn planting is only 1% behind schedule, its latest crop progress report finds some farmers haven't been able to do a lot of field work just yet. Looking at the days suitable for field work, farmers in Michigan with only 1.8 days available, Indiana and Minnesota 1.5, Montana only slightly more, Wisconsin less than a day. With very little snow on the ground this winter, there were hopes for an early start to the season, especially in the northern Corn Belt. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins us. And Michelle, is the weather going to allow that to happen?
Clinton, it doesn't look like Plant 24 is going to get off to the near record start that some had predicted. In fact, if we look at the forecast for the rest of April, it looks like a tale of two weather stories in the Corn Belt, with the west seeing a more open window while the east could have a few planting delays. A relatively open winter and record warm temperatures in February and March had farmers in parts of the Corn Belt doing some field work and talking about early spring planting. However, looking at the 7 to 10 day forecast, growers, at least in the east, may have to settle for a normal season.
Eastern Corn Belt's getting shut back down again. Storm system that's coming out of the south early this week, which produced a lot of severe weather, is going to move up the east. And that's just going to put too much rain down to really get stuff going. But I think the Western Corn Belt might see 7 or 8 days of decent conditions to get things going.
And Snodgrass says early planting in some areas may be discouraged because he expects cold temperatures to return after April 17th or 18th with a system that gets cut off and spins over the Great Lakes.
And there is just some evidence that much of the northern Corn Belt, maybe you can get as far south as maybe 40 degrees north latitude, straight across the country, we should be able to get a frost temperature in, which would be a little bit later than average for parts of the ice states, but I can't rule out the fact that we could cool back down one more time.
After that, Snodgrass thinks the entire Corn Belt can make good planting progress. Then the attention will shift to lingering drought concerns.
I mean, at fall, we had 40% of the lower 48 in some form of drought. Now it's down to about 18%, but still, talking to farmers in Iowa, I mean, up until recently, farmers in Wisconsin and parts of Minnesota, and then getting up to the Red River Valley of the North, and even Missouri, Nebraska, there's people out there that are saying, man, we've not recovered what we've lost incrementally over the last 4 years.
The models are pushing drought from the Western Plains into the Western Corn Belt, but Snodgrass says he got burnt by those models last season, so he's holding off on that prediction until he sees the timing of the transition from El Nino to La Nina. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
And planting will be slowed in the southern plains and lower Mississippi Valley due to the threat of severe weather. Meteorologist Matt Engelbrecht has the very latest.
Yeah, the big story this week that we've been following the last couple of days is rain, torrential rain coming in through parts of the Gulf Coast states and then ejecting back up to the north and to the northeast. So this is Wednesday at 3 p.m. May have a few stronger thunderstorms as well with this system. Most of the moisture wants to go off to the east and kind of split along another front and work back up here to the north. So soaking rain in the forecast Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon into the Midwest, but also into Tennessee, Georgia, and down to the south. As we get into our Thursday night, the system, as it wraps up, will bring around some wraparound moisture with some cooler temperatures back into parts of Indiana, Ohio, but also Pennsylvania. So this is going to be quite the soaking into the Northeast, but also the Midwest. Notice it's pretty shallow, that we're not getting back here towards the west, Oklahoma or the Dakotas with this system. So expecting that to be gone by Friday night and get back into a more quiet pattern for our Saturday. Again, there's a look at the latest forecast through your Saturday morning. And how cool is this? The Channel Islands National Park in California celebrating the birth of an eaglet. The baby was born at the Fraser Point Bald Eagle Nest on Santa Cruz Island. Here you can see the female bald eagle feeding the baby their first meal, freshly caught fish, sushi. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
While planting is just getting underway, winter wheat condition is also grabbing headlines. This time last year, only 27% of the nation's winter wheat crop was rated good to excellent.
56% of the winter wheat crop was in good to excellent condition this week. That's the same as last week, and it's above the 5-year average of 47%.
And the winter wheat in some places is better than 56% good to excellent. In fact, it's 68% in Nebraska and Oklahoma. More than 200 chemical plants nationwide must reduce emissions the EPA says is likely to cause cancer under a new rule. Now, that rule applies to facilities in places such as Texas, Louisiana, the Ohio River Valley, and West Virginia. It cuts the amount of hazardous pollutants factories are allowed to release. The EPA says that will cut potential cancer risk for people in those communities by 96%. Now, the rule will also require real-time air monitoring at the perimeter of the company properties. That will alert companies when hazardous air pollutants are leaking from their plants. For example, Denka Performance Elastomer in La Plaza, Louisiana is reported to be the largest source of chloroprene emissions in the U.S. and will have to reduce emissions under this rule. Now, Denka says it has complied with air permitting requirements and opposes this action. The agency saying it plans to make the air monitoring data publicly available. A preliminary climate rule regarding sustainable aviation fuel could be coming in the next few weeks, and it may be more restrictive than what the ethanol industry expected. That's according to a new report from Reuters. It says under the preliminary model, which may be released by May 15th, ethanol is not expected to automatically qualify as a feedstock in the SAF subsidy program. That is, unless the corn is sourced from farmers using one of 3 sustainable ag techniques that can include, quote, efficient tilling, use of cover crops, and efficient use of fertilizer. Reuters says the ethanol industry had expected a broader range of ag techniques to be included in the model. A federal program that helps pay for groceries for millions of low-income mothers, babies, and young kids will put an emphasis on eating more fruits and vegetables and whole grains. New rules to the WIC program were announced this week. They extend COVID-era cash vouchers for fruits and vegetables, but the rules also focus on whole grains, eliminate or reduce juice, and lower the quantities of milk. As you can imagine, the dairy industry is not happy with the decision regarding milk, saying in a combined news release that it is, quote, disturbed by the decision to reduce access to the essential nutrients dairy adds to the diet, end quote. It went on to say that milk, cheese, and yogurt are 3 of the 5 top redeemed items through WIC. WIC serves about 6.6 million people a month in 2023 at a cost of about $7 billion. A fresh export sale of soybeans wasn't enough to pull up soybean prices on Tuesday. We'll talk markets coming up next. And later, we're off to the Lone Star State, where water issues are forcing an end of an era for sugarcane growers. Details today in the country.
AgDay is brought to you by Germinator Closing Wheels. Germinator steel closing wheels provides a 13 bushel advantage per acre in no-till and a 7 bushel advantage per acre in conventional. Do you have enough room in your bin to switch to the Germinator?
What's the number one threat to the U.S. economy right now? Financial services company Moody's believes it's surging oil prices. Right now, U.S. oil prices are climbing to the highest levels in 5 months, and Moody's economists fear prices will continue to climb amid concerns the war in the Middle East could escalate. Right now, AAA says prices at the pump are averaging $3.60 a gallon, a little higher than prices were a year ago. Diesel averaging $4.05 a gallon. That's actually down about 15 cents from this time last year. Feeder cattle making gains, while soybeans didn't seem to be helped by a flash sale to unknown destinations of 4.6 million bushels. Michelle Rook is back to talk it over in Markets Now.
Grains out lower on Tuesday. Ted Seifert, Zener Ag Hedge, is back with us. And Ted, the sell-off, the broad-based sell-off that we saw in the grains on Tuesday, was that technical or was that weather?
Yeah, great question, Michelle. And I think specifically what's going on down in Brazil, their forecast is for rain. And the farther we go along, the more extended out that forecast gets. And there's more rain behind it, which at this point, Michelle, is pretty much reaching them towards the end of their growing season. And if they get the advertised forecast right now, I think we're adding bushels to that Brazilian corn crop rather than subtracting. So I think for that reason, there's a reason to take weather preview out of the market. But then for us, right? I mean, we've had a lot of rains here recently. It's really done a lot of things for the drought monitor. It's one of the better looking drought monitors that we've had in a while, aside from Northeast Iowa. Hopefully hopefully you guys get that rain soon as well. But it's a pretty good looking drought monitor. Yeah, we can say, oh, but now it's too wet and we're going to see planting delays, but it's really early for that. And the extended forecast does have a lot of opportunities, seemingly. Again, it's an extended forecast, so we'll see. But if that holds true, we're going to have a warmer, drier finish to the month. That means that, hey, planting could be gangbusters here in a week or two. And again, I'm just not seeing any major weather concern right now.
We should also point out that we have failed several times to get above and close above some of these really key moving averages, especially in the corn, haven't we?
Yeah. Technically speaking, corn has had the darndest time trying to get up and over its 50-day moving average. We haven't done it for more than a few hours at a time. We've not been able to close above it. Even on the big acreage report day, where acreage came in a lot less than expected, we weren't able to do it. And it just feels like the market's getting tired of trying to do it.
So with what you said, does that mean we're not going to get our typical spring weather rally?
Right. Springtime rally just might not be happening because you don't have an acreage battle between corn and beans. I think you've got adequate acres in both places for the moment. If anything, we've talked about it a lot. There was that 6.2 or 6.3 million acreage decline year over year in overall crop acreage. Maybe some of that's coming back, right? And you might not need price to encourage that.
Thanks for joining us. Ted Seifert, Zener Ag Head. We'll have more Ag Day coming up.
For professional marketing advice specifically tailored to your needs, call Zener Ag Hedge at 312.
So we talked about it a little bit ago, just that soaking rain. To give you some perspective, the precipitation, that includes rain and snow, mostly rain for the United States through the week. You can see how things really start to grow back out here towards the northeast, but also the red, that soaking rain all the way up and down the Mississippi with, again, another 2 to 3 inches of rainfall between Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. A lot of that having to do with not only the initial push of some rain, but also the wraparound moisture. So no drought concerns where this system is tracking, but there is a sharp cutoff between significant rainfall and then dry conditions back out here to the west. So again, this is going to pick up more moisture than severe weather into the Midwest. Maybe looking at some severe weather kicking up some thunderstorms in and across those southern Gulf Coast states. Something we're going to be following very closely. The other part of this, it is a low pressure system. And with that comes some stronger wind gusts. This is Wednesday at 3 p.m. The wind gusts are really high, elevated into Texas, back into parts of Louisiana, and even into Mississippi, but also back up into the Dakotas as well. That's pushing about 35 to 40 miles per hour Wednesday afternoon. As we go into your Thursday morning and Thursday night, that focus shifts where that low pressure system is located. So even after sunset, some stronger winds out there as the system works to the north and to the northeast. This map completely colored with the purple and the red and the purple in and across the plains and the Midwest with this low pressure system. So and there's Thursday at 4 p.m. A combination of wind and rain with this next system. The one thing that we are missing in terms of widespread severe weather is a strong cold front or a battling air mass on the backside of that low. More trough. Here's a look at the jet stream coming up Thursday and Friday. So that trough exits off to the north and to the northeast on Friday. Everything still stays pretty consistently warm and dry going into the weekend. We'll start off with Carl, South Carolina, mostly cloudy, high around 77 degrees. Bing, Montana, partly cloudy, high of 58 degrees. Blanche, Louisiana, strong storms in the forecast, high around 80 degrees.
Hormel Foods has agreed to settle a lawsuit where it was accused of conspiring to inflate the price of pork. Court documents show the company has agreed to pay $2.4 million to settle claims with Longhorn Steakhouse and other indirect purchasers. A proposed settlement was filed last week in U.S. District Court for the District of Minnesota. The settlement still needs the approval of a judge. The National Pork Producers Council says it wants to enhance the nation's live swine traceability system. AgriPulse is reporting MPPC leaders say work on that new traceability program is underway, and the organization's leaders saying the information would not be made public, but would instead be used to help control the spread of a potential foreign animal disease, as well as lessen the impact if one were to occur. At the National Pork Industry Forum last month, the producer-led task force came up with several recommendations, including having all swine owners register for a premises identification number, along with tagging high-risk swine, including cull breeding stock and show stock with an animal identification number, RFID tag. Industry leaders say an outbreak of a foreign animal disease in the U.S. could result in the immediate suspension of exports, which totaled more than $8.2 billion in pork and pork products last year. As we know, sometimes the battle to protect an industry doesn't work out. We're off to Texas, where a lack of access to water means the end of an era for one segment of the ag industry there. That story in the country. It's the end of an agricultural era. Texas sugarcane is no more. For over 50 years, the sweet crop has been grown in the Rio Grande Valley, but due to water shortages, the state's one and only sugar mill has closed its doors. The closure due in part to a dispute between Mexico and the U.S. over access to irrigation water. The Texas Farm Bureau spoke to some of those impacted by the decision.
It's really strange to prepare a crop plan for the year of 2024 and to not have sugarcane involved in that crop plan. It's going to take a while to really settle in. My name is Sam Sparks, owner and operator at SRS Farms here in Mercedes, Texas, right next to Santa Rosa. We grow cotton, corn, grain sorghum, soybeans, sesame, and used to be sugarcane. Well, my family's actually been involved in the sugar mill since inception. My grandfather was one of the first growers. I guess that was back in 71, 72. He grew cane. My father grew cane. I grew cane. It's the only sugar producing region in the state of Texas. We have the ability to grow sugar productively. Our biggest issue is it requires irrigation water. We have a treaty that was formed in 1944 with Mexico to where they get a portion of the water that comes down the Rio Grande River along with the United States. Over the years, they've built up multiple dams and have been collecting water and not giving the United States the water that is in the treaty. With a shortage of irrigation water, that's where we're at today, and why they've decided that we're going to have to cease operations at the mill.
The mill has about 90 growers. It's a co-op, and I'm one of the growers. I'm Tudor Yulehorn. I'm chairman of the board of Rio Grande Valley Sugar Growers. We have been the only sugarcane mill since 1974. This was our 51st season that we just completed, which will be our last. Normally, this warehouse would still be full of sugar, but as you can see, it's completely empty, and we've shipped all the sugar. That's the last of the Rio Grande Valley sugar that there will be.
It's really, really sad. I've thought about it a lot. And, initially you think about all the employees that have worked up there for a long period of time, their families being affected, and then to think of, all the countless blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into evolving the sugar mill into what it is today. And now here we are, they've all come to nothing. The guys who were around at day one, when they first started talking about building this mill here, my goodness, really hard for them to understand why the United States won't do something as far as not only Mexico holding the water that they owe the United States, but also stealing water. There's a lot of water theft out of the Rio Grande River that the United States is not doing anything about. We're being good stewards of the water that's coming down the Rio Grande River. Why don't they enforce Mexico to do the same? I would say sugarcane is the very first of many. The citrus industry would be next. And then all of our vegetables that we grow. We grow lots of different varieties of vegetables and greens that require irrigation water on a regular basis. And if we don't have the irrigation water to supply those crops, we just can't grow them. And so it's desperate times right now in the Rio Grande Valley.
And our thanks to the Texas Farm Bureau for sharing that story with us. And that's all the time we have this morning. Sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.